All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am James Oliver Jr., CEO of the Parentpreneur Foundation, where we empower Black parentpreneurs so they can leave a legacy for their beautiful Black children. And today, I have a very special guest, a good friend of mine, Damon Brown, who's going to help you figure out how to go from zero to 20,000, almost 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. So let me read his bio very quickly, and then I'll bring Damon Brown up. So Damon helps side hustlers, solopreneurs, and other non-traditional creatives bloom. He co-founded a popular platonic connection app, Cuddler, and led it to acquisition within a year, all while being the primary caretaker of his infant first son, which is, I mean, that's just amazing, right? That's parentpreneur nirvana right there. He now guides others through his counseling, through his consulting, his Inc.com column, and public speaking on platforms like TED. Damon's latest book is Build From Now: How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, and Nourish the World. The follow up to Bring Your Worth, Level Up Your Creative Power, Value, and Service to the World. And his bestseller, The Ultimate Bite Sized Entrepreneur: 76 Ways to Boost Time, Focus, and Productivity on Your Big Idea. What's up, Damon Brown?
What's going on? And I got my new book coming out, The Complete Bring Your Worth Collection. It's coming out October 20th. So, man, I'm excited to connect with y'all.
Right,
Yeah.
you got more stuff going on than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, man.
I have to do TV right. Got to show the book. I'm working on my
There we
TV
go.
presence. Thank you for having me on. It's always good to connect with you, man.
Oh,
As
my
you know.
pleasure. So if you're listening out there, we're streaming live on YouTube, on Damon's YouTube show, Bring Your Worth.tv, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, all the places and spaces. If you're out there listening, if you could drop in the comments, let us know where you're listening right now. And also, get ready to, we'll save some time for questions. We'll try to get to the questions on the fly here. So if you have a question, just drop them in the comment section or whatever platform you're watching on, and we'll do our best to get to all of your questions. I can't wait to hear them. So Damon, look, man, you're doing all the things on YouTube. I've just been slowly watching you because you're, a beloved member of the Parentpreneur Foundation community.
Thank you.
And I've been watching you do your YouTube stuff for a couple of years now. I'm just like, man, like you're killing it over there. And I know a lot of people who have tried to do YouTube unsuccessfully. Hey, Dana Fry, trying to do YouTube, trying to figure out how to make that thing work for them. So I said, why don't we just come and you could give people 3 tips to go from 0 to 20,000 subscribers on YouTube. So what's tip number 1, man? How do we do this thing?
Wow. My biggest lesson, it'll be a 3-year anniversary of Bring Your Worth.tv on the equinox, not this one coming up, but the one, the summer or winter solstice. So I think that's December 22nd, 23rd. It'll be 3 years. And the audience was relatively flat for like 2 years. I'm just going to keep it real with you. And
Flat as in what?
It was flat as in, I had maybe 50 subscribers just on the strength. I did a TED talk about 6, 7, 8 years ago now. It was a while ago now. And that's literally the only reason why I got YouTube. And so I wanted to just put my TED talk up there because it was on the second stage of TED. TED has 2 different stages. It was on the second stage, so they don't put them up or promote them as much. And I was like, let me get that. And so I put up my own thing. And that's how it started like almost 10 years ago. So I had like 50 subscribers. My grandma, rest in peace, would subscribe, that kind of thing.
God bless grandma. Grandma was good for that. You had 50 subscribers.
She's right above
for 2
me,
years?
actually. It's a picture of her right up there. What's that?
You had 50 subscribers on YouTube for 2 years?
Yeah, something like that.
And you kept going?
Yeah, it was 50, I want to say about a year ago. Because remember, it's 3 years. So let's work backwards.
So yeah, for 2 years. It's almost 3 years. Almost 2 years you had
probably
50 subscribers.
Yeah, probably by my second anniversary, I probably had about maybe 600. So if you think about that, like, grinding it out and doing it for 2 years. And then what happened was a couple of different things. Number one, this is kind of the best tip. Let's try to stay focused on your tip here.
Okay.
The number one tip is that you're going to have a different audience than you actually do everywhere else. So I'm a best-selling author. I was on the second stage of the main TED conference, and I've done 3 TEDx talks. You know, I had quite a few followers on Twitter before I left Twitter about a year ago. Like, I already have my so-called brand. When I went to YouTube, I was starting over again. And so no one had heard about my best-selling books. Nobody had seen me on the stage. No one knew me as a business coach. And so the number one thing I think is to realize you're going to be kind of starting over again. It's kind of like going from Twitter to Facebook to, say, TikTok, right? Like, you're kind of building it all over again. You might bring some people over, but each of those communities are very unique. If you go to bringyworth.tv, or if you go to youtube.com/browndamer, whatever works easier for you, there's a little tab that says community. You click on the community tab, and YouTube has its own social media. And so I'm able to interact with my 18,000 plus folks that subscribe every moment of the day when a new video comes out, even with my new book coming out in October. And so the number one rule is that you have to kind of treat it like another, I'm not big on social media, but almost like another social media platform where you're going to be starting over again. So no matter what success or cloud or whatever you have elsewhere, I mean, that's why it took me 2 years. I couldn't take this cloud from over here and dump it over there. So it's going to take a little while to kind of establish that in YouTube. I'd say that would be the number one tip.
Wow. So treat it differently. Understand you're starting over, and know that you could have 50 subscribers for almost 2 years.
Yeah. Well, I did hit 600. So, I mean, I 10X technically, but it wasn't, you know.
Well, I mean, look, after doing something for 2 years, 600, that's still not a lot. Right? I mean, that's not a lot. No. Let's be honest, right?
And I think it's also too that you have to be aware of whatever environment's happening there. So a middle-aged African-American man who's talking about entrepreneurship, talking about passive income, and how you can grow as a side hustle or solopreneur or otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. So I'm not like the hottest thing on the platform. I'm not the coolest person on TikTok.
You weren't talking about crypto or NFTs or
I'm not right. Crypto's great. Just I don't talk about it.
Club. You wouldn't
right. I'm not talking about crypto. I'm not doing pranks. You know what I mean? Like I'm not, you know, a very young millennial or whatever that new generation is coming up. Like I'm not that. And so it took a while to kind of build up that steam too. But I would say I found that in all my vocations, even as far as the startup world and the startups that I was pursuing, VCs weren't, you know, hurrying to call me back. But I knew what my communities needed, and that eventually led to the success of my last startup, Cuddler. But we were getting laughed at and misunderstood the whole way. And that's kind of, at least for me, that's kind of how it works. For a lot of people that I coach, that's how it works. Because, you know, we're building for particular communities. I mean, James, you understand that. Like, you're building for specific communities, and everybody's going to get that wave. And so it might take a little bit longer, no matter what platform you're on, to get that community together. But once you do, though, I have people that really rock with me and look forward to the shows. So I'm thankful for that.
So what inspired you to keep going when you only had a few followers? Like, how did you push through that to keep going? Or was there something that you said, you know, maybe I should try and do something differently? Like, what was that for you?
Yeah, I tried a few different things. I think my first approach is trusting that there was an audience for it. And I think that might be the strongest benefit you have. Like, if you're just starting a YouTube channel or even on another one of the video platforms, and you don't know if your audience is there, that makes it really hard. For me, again, I already got the best-selling books. I already do a lot of public speaking. I coach a lot of people, so I already know what I'm delivering has a place. So it's a matter of being patient enough for the particular technology, for that particular audience to notice what I'm trying to do. And that requires
so how do you get them to notice you?
Time. Yeah, I'd say that would be the number one thing is time. When my channel really did the hockey stick, which was February this year of 2023. And I remember you have this app called the YouTube app, not the one that you watch YouTube on, but like it's called YouTube Studio. So you can,
Okay.
as a creator.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I remember going to sleep. I usually turn my phone off except for my alarm, but I forgot to turn my phone off. And I woke up and I just kept on hearing buzzing and buzzing and buzzing. And a few of the videos that I did took off. Took off as in I had one day in February where I had 1.3 million views. And then if you think about 1% of those people subscribing, then it makes it really easy to understand how I got to where I'm at now.
Mhm.
But it took that much persistence to do that. And I didn't hit that hockey stick until probably about 300 videos in.
And you're saying that
Seriously.
just happened. There was nothing you did other than produce 300 videos. Like that's nothing.
Well,
And
no, there's a little bit more than that. So, so it wasn't just luck.
so
Persistence,
what
I
did you
think, is
do
the number
before you
one
went to
thing,
bed
though.
that night that had your phone pinging like crazy?
What's that?
What did you do before you went to bed that night that had your phone pinging like crazy?
One of the videos took off, and
Did you on its
at
own?
that
Did you
point,
do something?
I think I just improved. And so I think that's kind of the secret sauce I'm kind of implying that I think we tend to forget. My 350th video is going to happen this week. It's going to be way more better, way more better than
Be
my
way better.
250th
Right.
episode that I did a year ago. So I'm actually improving as an editor, as a creator, as a host, as an orator. The stories I tell, I know what my community needs. The community section's way more popping now. So they're giving me feedback like, no, you got this fact wrong. It happened with this. No, I really want a video about this, but you talked about this. I want that instead. So it's almost like
Okay.
you have to look at like a curation,
Mhm.
and you're becoming a better curator along the way. And to do that, you gotta, I mean, that's actually my tip number 2 that I've written down,
Yeah.
is building up
Perfect.
your
What is it?
catalog. Yeah, it's building up your catalog, which is number 2. Because what it comes down to is, number 1, you get better, but number 2, and this is probably the most important point that I have to share. You don't want to blow up when you have nothing to give. In other words, if I was on episode 1 back in December of 2020 and my video got 10 million views, then what? I would have no catalog. There'll be nothing else for people to watch. If I didn't have my businesses together, including all my books, my public speaking, my coaching, and all that, there'll be nowhere for them to go. They were like, oh, that's a great video. And then they move on to the next thing. Again, when my stuff went hockey stick, I had about 300 episodes. And so now people are discovering through YouTube, sharing it with them because they know they like my hot videos, as well as just a pure catalog of it. Now they have 200, back then in February, they had 299 other things to watch. And so you actually
Wow.
don't want to go from 0 to 20K the first day. You actually don't want that.
Right.
And the next part about that, which we're kind of getting at, is that your videos in the beginning aren't going to be that great. And so now when people come in, I have more of a presence. My lighting's a little bit better. I know how to organize things. My mic is stronger. I know how YouTube works. I know the vibes way more. So now when I get my next viral hit or my stuff goes like this again, then I'm
Yeah.
ready. And I'm like, bet. There's
Right.
350 episodes for you all to enjoy. Most of them are good. You know
Amazing.
what I mean?
So congratulations on your YouTube success, Damon. Not sure who the user is on LinkedIn. Sometimes LinkedIn
Thank
doesn't
you.
always show the name, so apologize for
I
that,
know
whoever
LinkedIn
that
can be
was.
funny with the streaming.
Thank you
Yeah.
for that. If you have questions, please drop them in the comment, and we will do our best to get to them for you. So that was your second tip, to just produce a lot of content, basically. And then, so do you feel like there's any similarities in that regard with like podcasting, or that's just like a totally different beast?
Absolutely. Yeah. I have a lot of mentors and friends who are
There's
podcasters,
Jamila.
including
Hey,
yourself.
Jamila.
Shout out to you.
Say again. I'm sorry.
I said I have a lot of friends and mentors who are podcasters, including yourself.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of the folks that I've talked with who have been in the game for a long time, like they were podcasting well before the Joe Rogan era, talking like 15 years ago. back when you had to have an RSS feed and all that.
Yeah.
And they were saying the same thing that I've been sharing with y'all, where you don't want to launch a podcast with one episode.
Right. Let's see the shameless
like,
plug
great.
of this thing scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. Parents
There you go. Talk about it.
Yeah,
Talk
if you're
about
a
it.
parent and
You know, I have no
entrepreneur, you
problem
like
with
to listen-
plugs, so do that thing.
I mean, listen,
Right?
I mean, this is Parentpreneur Foundation. If you're a parent and entrepreneur, you like to listen to podcasts, check out parentsmakingprofits.com. It was just voted the number 10 podcast for entrepreneurship by FeedSpot. So there you go.
Ooh, those are numbers. That's hard too. That's hard. Yeah,
I don't
hard to
know
get
how
up
we
there.
did that, but we're number 10.
Well, you know what I'm saying, but you kept showing up, right?
I don't know how that happened. So
Because
somebody was saying
y'all
that
have had the
similar
podcast for a
before
good couple of years, so you've been doing your thing. Yeah.
So the Joe Rogan thing, they said, what about Joe Rogan?
No, I was saying it was well before the Joe Rogan era.
Yeah.
So the people that have been mentoring me have had podcasts for like 15 years.
Wow.
One of the things that they said is that you don't want to launch with one episode.
Right.
Right? I mean, you know the vibes with it. You don't launch.
No, we
with at
did. So
least
we had our
three.
trailer, and then we had 2 episodes that we launched with. So we had effectively like 3 things for people to listen to when we launched.
Minimum of 3.
Yeah,
That's right.
No, that
That's
makes
kind of the
that
rule.
makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, exactly. And so so a lot of the game that I'm sharing now, a lot of things that got me here are actually from my friends and mentors in the podcasting world. That was one of the things that I learned, but it took a little while to learn it, was that with the environment now, you can look at YouTube not as a video platform, but as a video podcast platform, because people understand podcasts now. I've been rocking with
that's
podcasts
interesting.
for-
We don't publish, we don't record video. We do our podcast, and we don't publish it on YouTube. I suppose that's a missed opportunity in terms of getting views or whatever, but we're not, that medium on its own would need to take off in order for us to be able to quote unquote monetize it, right? Because those views don't count towards the podcast download data, which is what drives sponsorship dollars over there. So it's just a totally different thing if we decided to do the video of that, which I don't honestly, because it's a lot of whole dog and pony show situation. I just don't have the time for, or the inclination to do it even.
I mean, I know for some folks, just from my seat on the bus, I know some folks that only watch their podcasts. Like, they don't listen to the podcast, they just watch them. And so that's kind of the paradigm shift. Again, that's why I mentioned Joe Rogan. Like, that's kind of the paradigm shift that happened when the Spotify Joe Rogan thing happened. You know, I'm really big into media. My background is journalism. And so probably like 4 or 5 years ago, when the Joe Rogan deal happened, and with Spotify, everything shifted. And that's why when you go on YouTube, most people that have at least a really big podcast, again, the name brands like a Joe Rogan, they got video in there. And so even if you don't do it now, eventually things come to video. The same thing happened. I was just going to say the same thing happens with I used to be a writer for the Source magazine, a lot of the hip hop magazines. And the same thing's happening with music, where a lot of the, like, my nieces and nephews, folks that are like 30 and younger, when they want a new song, they don't even go to Spotify per se. They go to YouTube. And
I do that sometimes too, not gonna lie.
Right? Thank you. So I mean,
I do that. But it depends on where I am. If I'm in my car, I'm on my phone, boom, I go to Spotify. But if I'm sitting in my laptop, sometimes it's just easier to go to YouTube if I'm in the web browser. But if I'm already on Spotify, I'll just type it in on Spotify. So basically, you just got to be where people are.
That's the absolute bottom line. And really quickly, I'll give you a point where I took my my first business bestseller, The Bite-Sized Entrepreneur. It came out like 7 years ago. Again, it's included in the complete Bring Your Worth collection. And I actually did AI graphics. I learned more about AI using a thing called Midjourney.ai. So started working with that. And then I used that to put images to the audiobook I had for The Bite-Sized Entrepreneur. And I shared it with my YouTube community. So now there's a book from like 7, 8 years ago that was already a bestseller. Now it's gathering some dust. It's still selling, but it's not what it was. I'm flipping it using AI, and I'm sharing it with this new community. And that's what I'm kind of getting at, where again, back to point one, you're almost like building and reintroducing yourself again. And so there's certain products or ideas or services that you can share that I might have been rocking with that for a long time, but my YouTube community at Bring Your
Yeah.
Worth TV, they don't know what it
Okay.
is, you know?
Okay. So tip number one was understand that every medium's different
Every audience is
audience.
different. That's right.
Every audience is different. Tip number two is you got to have a bunch of content. You don't want to blow up before you have something for people to consume. And so what's tip number three?
Tip number three, and you kind of hinted at this, is you want to experiment with different formats. And as my journalism teachers used to say when it came to editing, you don't want to be too precious with your work. Sometimes what you're working isn't working. And so you need to recast it. You need to change it from third person to first person or whatever when it comes to writing. I found the same thing when it comes to this medium. So my first major video is about Brene Brown and emotional intelligence. And it was about 6 months until I started getting really serious. Around the time I started getting really serious with YouTube. So it's probably March or April of 2021. And I got about 10,000 views, which is a lot for me. And so I did more of that kind of content. I study a lot about emotional intelligence. I worked with my coaches through it, or the people I coach, I worked them through it. And so I did more of that. And there are a lot of other videos that did well, but not as quite as well as this one video. Then I started playing around with the shorts format, which is similar to TikTok or Instagram Reels, that kind of thing, where it's like 60 seconds or less. I started playing with that. It was almost exactly a year ago. So it was about a year ago I started playing with that. I started doing a short a day just to experiment with it. That was one of them. In February, one of the shorts ended up getting 10 million views. And it was a wrap. It's like, okay, that's where the hockey stick is right now. I'm still doing lots of different shorts, having fun with that. But now this month in September, every workday I'm going live at this exact time, 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm going live with y'all to get your questions, to deal with certain topics, as far as the startup world, as far as mental and emotional health, things of that nature, things that side hustlers and solopreneurs deal with. And then now I have certain lives where I'm connecting with y'all where a couple thousand of y'all have come through. That's a different vibe right now. So I think that's kind of the third tip, is to not say this is what my show is. Notice I keep calling it the show. It's not a YouTube channel, it's a show. So treat it like that. So it's like, all right, this season, I'm going live all September. Let's go. What do people want to talk about? The community down here. Let's see what's going on. What do y'all want to hear? And that's going to be the vibe for this month. And there's certain people that have come in right now that were kind of on the sidelines that are getting more involved with the community I'm building at BringYourWorth.tv because I'm going live every day. And so don't be afraid to like mix it up, change it up, go in different directions and see what works. Doesn't mean you have to throw away what does work. It just means don't be afraid to grow. And again, I'm approaching 3 years with BringYourWorth.tv. So I'm sure the environment on YouTube is way different than it was in 2020.
Yeah.
And so embrace that change. You know what I mean?
So what's the biggest mistake you see creators make on YouTube?
Trying to go with the trend right now. But that's across the board. You know me well
What do you
enough.
mean?
You know, I've talked about this. What I mean is that right now, what might be hot on YouTube is quick cuts and me jumping in my seat and doing this, whatever. On TikTok, it might be doing a dance with 4 penguins, which if you're on TikTok, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm not.
That's cool. I love to dance and you should see me at karaoke. However, that is not the nature of my show. That's not my vibe. So I would focus on things, even if you get a little bit trendy, that's fine. Focus on those things that actually stand the test of time. Like this bookcase, this little blazer, this vibe, whatever.
Classic.
This doesn't go out of style.
Never.
This is my shirt. Like you can buy the shirt at DameBrown.net. Never goes out of style.
Yeah.
Black shirt, whatever. It's super simple.
You're not chasing the shiny new objects is what you're saying, basically.
Thank you. And it's hard to do. It's hard to do. But that, and I know that might sound contradictory to trying new
It
things.
sounds boring too.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Even when like
But
you were saying,
if it's
which
consistent, it doesn't matter, right?
exactly. But that's exactly the point. They know, as far as the community, and even some of y'all that are watching, you know the vibes. If you're going to tune into me, I'm going to be talking about passive income. I'm going to talk about what's in your artist contracts, whether you're a creator or you're an entrepreneur. I'm going to talk about how you can build your startup while you got little kids screaming at home. I'm
Oh,
going to
look
talk
at
about
that
all that.
substance. Not all the flash, but actual substance.
You're being too kind. But you understand what I'm trying to say. Like,
I do.
yeah. Yeah.
I struggle with this sometimes, at least in my head. You know, this is why I talk to my therapist. You know what I'm saying?
But I mean, the we all have that problem. The problem is that consistency is boring. Like I'm not going to blow smoke up whatever. I'm going to say, yeah, I was about 300 episodes in, and suddenly I went from about 900 subscribers in January to, you know, about 10,000 by Valentine's Day. That's what happened. But how did it happen? Well, the tips I talked about, but also I kept showing up for 299 episodes, and then suddenly, you know, it's not magic. It's like consistency. This is what Damon and BringYourWorth.tv is about. I can trust that he's going to provide this substance. And I think that's what
basically evergreen. Look at this comment. Basically evergreen content, right? Exactly.
Evergreen, right?
Because what's hot with the jumping up and down today, like 6 months from now, you're going to be like, what is this foolishness?
Exactly. If it was a year ago, we'd be talking about AI. If it was the year before that, we'd be talking about crypto. If it was a year before that, we'd be talking about the pandemic. Year before that, we'd be talking about blogs and whatever. I talk about this all the time. Like, I'm really big into media, so it's always the next wave. But how are you going to make a wave? How are you going to be consistent? If I were to be gone right now and my kids were to dig up my channel 10, 20 years from now, everything I talk about on the channel is still going to be relevant.
Wow.
It might be, you know, a new TikTok instead of talking about TikTok, but it's the same vibe. That's what I want. I want that, like you said, evergreen content.
Yeah.
And that's apparently that's why I have the Bring Your Worth show, because I want to continue to support people even when the winds change. I want them to be able to say, I can count on Damon to give me the truth about what's happening, you know?
All right. So that third tip was don't, follow the fads is what the third tip was. So to summarize, the first tip was just understand each platform has a different audience. The second tip was make sure you have enough content, because you don't want to try to blow up if you don't have sufficient content. And honestly, it's not very likely to happen anyway, right? No. And the third tip was, stop chasing the squirrels and the shiny objects. Be consistent. He's building
while at the same time not being afraid to experiment a little bit. So
not being afraid to experiment. It's okay to try new things, but he's not going for the shiny squirrel type things. It's okay to try new things, because if the platform is going to be promoting shorts and you're still doing long form content, well, that's not necessarily smart if you want more people to see your stuff. If you don't care, that's fine, but you have to be open to changing as well. So those three tips basically is how Damon went from 0 to he's got almost 20,000 followers or subscribers on his YouTube channel now. You can go to BringYourWorth.tv over on YouTube. Pardon?
I said thank you.
Of course, bro. YouTube, he's at Brown Damon. He's a great guy. He's very knowledgeable, very credible. So if you're into this kind of content, you should definitely check him out. He's a good friend. Can you hang out for 1 second while I roll the credits here, Damon?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right. Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'm just going to roll this the outro, and we'll see you next time.